past the hour. We have these images just moments ago. Donald Trump re-entering the courthouse, the courtroom area. So clearly things are about to get underway as we get to about almost 39 minutes past the hour.
Yeah, so there's about 3 or 4 minutes left in this break for the jurors and for the witness, Michael Cohen, who remains on the stand during cross-examination. And joining us now, who stepped out of the courthouse, is Lawfare's legal fellow and courts correspondent Anna Bower. You were inside the courthouse through this morning's testimony. You've been in the courtroom during some of the cross-examination. What stands out to you most today?
Well, so coming in today, the big question was whether Todd Blanche would have a little bit of a more efficient cross-examination. When we left off on Tuesday, he had a kind of disjointed, disorganized cross-examination. And so the question was whether he would turn it around today. I don't think that he has managed to do that. We heard again today a continuation of many of the different chapters of this cross-examination that the defense focused on Tuesday. That includes things like Michael Cohen's public statements about Donald Trump, statements in which he has expressed his desire for Trump to go to jail and to be convicted. But a large part of this cross-examination today focused on Michael Cohen's previous lies under oath. A big, 30-minute extended segment of this cross-examination focused particularly on Michael Cohen's 2018 guilty plea to various crimes. Some of those crimes, Michael Cohen has said, are crimes that he does not believe he should have been charged for. And as a result, he has now said on the stand that he believes when he pleaded guilty to those crimes, he was lying under oath. He did admit to that. So potentially there's a few points that the defense scored in that respect, but it took 40 minutes of going over this again and again and again. And I think that it's the kind of thing that could have been done in 5 to 10 minutes. There are other things that Michael Cohen has lied about under oath. He has pleaded guilty to some of those statements, but instead it was this guilty plea and whether or not he had accepted responsibility for that and the potential dishonesty about that Blanche really focused in on. And it again, though, was a cross-examination that continues to be disjointed, continues to be a little bit disorganized and jumping around. It's quite hard to follow. So I'm really not sure that the defense is succeeding in scoring too many points here today.
And Anna, what about the number of objections that the prosecution carried out? Many of them were sustained today. How was that vis-a-vis Tuesday?
Yeah, so there were a number of objections that were sustained today. Some of those are objections that we will learn more about through the transcripts when those are available later. Many of them resulted in a sidebar that was out of earshot, so we don't know a whole lot about some of those conversations that were going on with the judge. But there were a number of objections. The defense tried to admit evidence into and publish it to the jury. The prosecution over and over again objected. Some of those were sustained, some were overruled, but overall it really threw Todd Blanche's flow and rhythm off. And so I think that it was something that, again, just kind of really weakened the impact of his cross-examination. And we'll see, again, after this break, if maybe he can pick up the pace and keep it a little bit more efficient as he moves into some different areas of the cross-examination. We still have yet to get to any of the cross-examination that relates to the specific facts of this case that Michael Cohen has testified to. Thus far, it has only been impeaching the credibility of Michael Cohen for previous lies, for his motivations, for his ability to recollect the facts of the case. We still have not yet gotten into the actual facts that he testified to on direct examination. That may very well be something that the defense wants to stay away from, and they really do just want to make this case all about Michael Cohen's credibility. But we will see what happens after the break.
All right, Anna Bower, thank you so much for stepping out and speaking with us to give us your insights from the courthouse.